Alright. Well, here's the first episode of GamingRendo Podcast Season 2. I have Nell, Rendo, and TDMK Sean with me. Say hi, losers.
Hi.
Hi
Losers.
So first we're going to have Nell discussing the announcements for the league.
First we'll start off by discussing some of the announcements that started up in the first week of preseason here. The first one is that this season we've decided to welcome players to chat in the game lobbies. The only thing that we ask is that you continue to obey the GRHL rules and regulations. Keep it clean. You know, a little bit of back and forth is okay. Just don't get personal with each other. Another one is this week we had a bit of an issue, and we have a management change over in Chicago. We're now going to be moving over to Detroit. We lost the management team there and a few players. And Next Level will be taking over that team. Any thoughts on that, everybody?
Thank you, Next Level, for stepping up and being a team player, I guess.
Takes a lot of balls to take over a team that's lost half the players. He gets respects from Rendo.
For the many balls.
Yes, for the many balls.
Gonads and strife, bro. Oh, yeah. Any more announcements?
Yes, sorry, on that note about gonads. On Tuesday night, we had some issues with Xbox Live. So the owners and the executives got together, had a little meeting, and made a decision to cancel that night's games. But the teams were still welcome to scrimmage. I believe the vote was 4-2 in favor of canceling the games. A few teams scrimmaged. Good times were had by all. We have one more note to make here, which was about a new announcement, a new rule that hasn't actually gone out yet. And it's that the same way we have an extra emergency game for goalies, we now have an emergency game for defensemen. So any player is eligible to play a fifth emergency game not scheduled at defense. And anyone who already plays defense, who plays 4 games a week, is now eligible to be scheduled for 5 games a week. The only problem is for anybody who's playing an emergency game at defense or an emergency game at goalie during the week, we request that management or the team contact please send us something on Xbox Live letting us know that person is playing that emergency game that night so we can document it for later in the week.
Well, when she says us, she means the executive on call.
I'm sorry.
Not NightBlade or Sean. Especially not
Yeah, I don't want any
As
messages.
important as they are. Yeah.
Especially not NightBlade.
Yeah. Alright, so now that I have your undivided attention again, I would like Sean to discuss with me the team's records for the week.
Buffalo is in first for preseason, 4-0 with 8 points. Toronto is 3-1, 6 points in second. New York is in third with 3 wins and 1 loss for 6 points. Winnipeg is in fourth, 2 wins, 2 losses, 4 points. Detroit in fifth, 0 wins, 3 losses, and 1 overtime loss. And Minnesota is in last with 0 wins and 4 losses for 0 points.
As an open question to all of you, what do you feel the difference between Buffalo and Minnesota is with their tactics?
Minnesota made the foolish decision of drafting 90% of their team from last season. And Buffalo went and drafted skilled players, so there's the difference right there.
You just told everybody in Minnesota that they were awful players.
Luckily for me, I didn't play this week, so I'm not considered awful.
It is what it is.
Now it's time for Rendo's Corner, where he will discuss executive shit.
Was that the discussion on the teams, by the way?
Yeah, apparently.
Like Sean dryly reading off the standings. NightBlade asking one stupid question that didn't, go anywhere.
It's preseason. It's like nothing happened yet.
Everything happened. There was a lot of awesome games from Toronto. We had one game that didn't count on the Tuesday where the games were canceled that went to triple overtime. And the final game we played against Detroit went to double overtime, and we managed to tie the game up with like 4 seconds to go on a power play, which was pretty intense. So no, preseason was a hell of fun. You just don't know what you're talking about because your team can't win games.
All of our games were close, except for the one.
Close only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and butt sex.
What do you think made Buffalo such an unstoppable force in the preseason?
Slamorama.
He only got 1 goal.
He doesn't need to get goals. He just needs to be there.
He had 3 assists, mind you, but...
I personally think for Minnesota, if we can get everybody to be available and actually keep the same lines on, then we'll be able to win more games. But if we keep on like putting random lines in, we're not going to build chemistry, and it's just going to be a shit show.
I agree. It's like that for all the teams, too. Any team that winds up having the same groups of guys together, more often than not, does better.
No. Another question for you guys is, out of the teams shown, regardless of what their ranking is, do you think any teams have better chemistry than others?
New York will. They have a bunch of people on their team that play club together. Winnipeg, I believe, also has a bunch of guys that play club together. So they inherently have a better team chemistry from previous experience. But the other teams, I really can't say a whole lot about them.
Okay, I think in a party, I mean, I know that I'm on Minnesota, so maybe I'm just kind of biased towards it, but I know that in a party, Minnesota, like, it just seems like everybody's friends. Or they hate each other. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes.
It's mostly
unfortunate they lack hockey skill.
I never said they were all skilled. I just said they're all friends. Alright, so what executive stuff did you want Rendo to talk about exactly here?
Rendo discussing executive shit. That is the segment.
How about Rendo discusses releases and waiver claims?
You can discuss whatever executive shit is going on.
You need to specify exactly what you'd like me to talk about, because I will not divulge anything unless asked.
I'm telling you right now what to talk about.
Okay, just give me a second. So, there were, I believe, 11 requests for release from teams this week. 10 of them went through. One of them did not, because it is my understanding that the team believed that when you released a player, they were released to the free agent or ECU list, but they're actually released from the league completely. So they were trying to release an active player, so that was the only one that got declined. So all the players released this week were Minnesota released EA Blows, Detroit released, or Chicago, Detroit, whatever you'd like to call them, lost, Taves, Jersey Devils, the management group, their keeper pick or recruitment pick, which was Henrique, one of their friends, Zeke 11, 1989, and then Black, who has extremely limited availability. So they actually released 5 players this week, which is, I think, a record for GRHL. I don't think any team's ever released that many in a single week. Winnipeg released Gizmo and Geek Dynasty. The Rangers released Crosscheck, and Toronto released Henderson. And in terms of waiver claims, because Minnesota sucked and could not win a single game, they got the first pick, which was Hardcore Infantry. Detroit, who had no defenseman, got Trapani X54X. Winnipeg grabbed Lightning Dude as a goalie replacement. The Rangers got Lateralis 421 as their goalie. Toronto got Timonen, who can play forward and defense, and Toronto needs defense. Detroit also got Bergeron. Winnipeg got Soccer JRC, oh boy. And Detroit, to round out the waiver claims, got MVF. So that would be the preseason player releases and waivers.
Now, were there any issues for preseason week 1 that you would like to discuss?
The biggest issues that happened in preseason week 1 were the games Tuesday for the first games of the preseason that couldn't get played because that big Call of Duty map pack, whatever the hell it was, came out, and it was shitting all over the EA servers and Xbox in general. So, discussed earlier, there was a vote the owners voted 4-2 to cancel the games, but they still managed to play some scrimmage games here and there.
And how well would you say the meeting went for first meeting of the year?
That wasn't really a meeting. That was more a conjunction of ideas to see what to do.
Conjunctivitis?
Conjunctivitis, yes.
Junction, what's your function?
It was more, instead of the executives making that decision, we wanted to see what the owners thought. And there was a majority. The executives on call were with the owners and wanting to cancel it, but they would have gone either way. And, yeah.
Do you feel that it was successful and that the owners and executives look like they're going to be doing a lot more of this with each other?
I guess it depends on the circumstance. Something like that, it needs more input from the owners. Other things may not need as much or any input from the owners.
Okay. How do you think that the junior executives have been working out so far?
I think both junior executives are doing a fairly good job so far. Tyrant has given us a lot of ideas for some future changes to the GRHL that we will explore and possibly implement for Season 3. Flux A is very active in responding to topics, and eventually he'll learn how to do the waiver system so Emirath can be eased of that burden. This week it was more of a figuring out what needed to be done with all the roster shortages, so someone with more experience like Emirath would be able to handle it a lot easier than trying to explain to Flux A how it would work.
All right. You have anything to add now?
I guess I'd just say that the junior executives are both working out really well so far. Putting in a lot of time. Like Rendo said, NJ Tyrant's got some stuff for us for next season. Flux A's been doing a lot of work this season. It just seems like whenever I send him a PM or a message, I'm not sure if he really has a job or if he really does anything else with his time, because he literally responds like within seconds, like every single time. So I think he's just kind of like waiting on call for someone to get a hold of him.
All right. So in that segment, we learned that Flux is a bum and doesn't have a job.
Well, I don't know. I think he does have a job, but he's just
he's
always
allegedly.
He's on.
He's allegedly a bum with no job.
An alleged bum.
All right. So now we're going to discuss the player standings. We have it separated into categories of forward, defense, and goals, assists, points, and hits for all of them. So here are the top 5 goal scorers for the forwards. Randyman 23 on Buffalo with 6 goals. Heavy Metal Riff on Buffalo as well with 5 goals. Giant Dengus on Winnipeg with 4 goals. Budweiser 2345 on Buffalo with 4 goals. And Spliff and Run from Toronto with 4 goals. Any thoughts on these guys so far?
The fact that Heavy Metal managed to score 5 goals is fairly surprising because he's pretty bad.
You're so mean. He's pretty bad.
So let's say we had 3 lines worth of players in the league. He would be like the 4th line not playing player. He's a plug.
So is that your way of saying that Heavy Metal is like one of those owners that's just getting carried by the awesome team that he drafted?
I'm fairly certain if you look at who he played with, he was probably playing with Bad at Life and Slamorama, and yes, he's being carried by those 2.
Do you really want to put that in?
Yes.
No, do not.
That is for him trading me last season. He deserves it.
Well, obviously, he found better talent somewhere else.
Oh.
Dangus is he's always been pretty good at putting the puck in the back of the net. So is Spliff. Budweiser actually won the GM Connected League in the first season, so I'm not very surprised at all that he managed to score a couple goals. And Randy, man, I've never heard of that guy, and he's got a shitload of goals. So props to him. The dark horse.
At the top 5 assists for forwards, we have Slamorama on Buffalo with 5 assists. Giant Dengus on Winnipeg with 5 assists. Randyman X23X on Buffalo with 3 assists. Savvy 91 on Winnipeg with 3 assists, and Bad at Life on Buffalo with 3 assists. Thoughts?
Well, it's nice to be on Buffalo because all their players have got nice plus minuses. Nice.
I just want to say that Slammer Emmerich is a handsome man, and he's almost as handsome as Emmerich.
Oh, Emmerith's going to be jealous. Well, I did notice that Dangus and Randy Man are both up there for the top goals and assists of the preseason.
Point leaders within the league.
Oh yeah, surprise, surprise, they're tops for points too.
We have the top 4 hitters for forwards as Drado, 21191 from Minnesota with 11, Heavy Metal Riff from Buffalo with 5, Everett 67, New York Rangers with 4, and Sabres 23 from Toronto with 3.
Sabres?
Isn't it supposed to be Sabres?
Sabres. Okay. I like to call him Sabres.
En español, Sabres.
Add Drado.
CC.
I make up my own names.
Isn't it Drado?
No, it's D-Rad.
Oh no, that's
I'm
not his
speaking
name.
to my agent to make sure I'm never brought back to this radio show again.
Sabres? Sorry, that threw me off. Now I'm
Sabres.
stuck on Sabres.
So D-Rad seems to be way ahead of the forwards with hits with 11.
Here's a question:
The-
Is hitting as hitting as a forward really important?
Yes, for the forecheck.
Okay, well then how come there were so few people out there actually putting hits down?
Because they don't fucking forecheck and they suck.
Is that
That
what
would
we've
chase,
decided?
baby.
So okay, if D-Rad has a lot of hits, which means he must be a good forechecker because obviously that's what it means. Why did Minnesota lose every single game this week?
Well, when you have one forechecker and then 5 other scrubs on your team, you're going to lose all your games.
Well, I honestly think that forechecking isn't always hitting. It could be poke checking too.
I'm a poke checking forechecker, but
Yeah. You don't want to just nail the guy, then you'll be taken out of the play too. Sometimes.
remember he also had a lot of penalties this week.
The whole point is trying to hurt people.
Yeah, but when
And
you get that many hits, you can look at his penalty minutes. He's got 8 penalty minutes with those 11 hits.
Exactly.
How many of them were interference calls, though?
Yeah, you don't want to completely crush somebody and get a penalty. That's counterproductive.
No, it's not.
Getting a penalty is counterproductive.
Get back on track.
Not if you have a good penalty kill.
Back on track. All right, so now we're going to move to the defense.
So the top 4 goal-scoring defensemen all had 1 goal each because they're superstars. We had NJ Tyrant, we had myself, we had Epic 17G, and I Am Become Death. All scored 1 goal. And my goal is terrible. The most important goal I scored this week was in the games that didn't count against Nell. That was the greatest goal I've ever scored in the history of always.
Yes.
It was greatly appreciated.
Yes, it was. So,
I'd also like to
is I Am
point out,
Become Death playing defense this season, or was he just playing defense in that game?
he's giving me 2 games availability, so he's playing 1 game defense, 1 game forward.
Okay.
Until I fill up more defensive spots.
Here's a question. What does that say about the defensemen of the league if we've only got 4 teams that have defensemen able to score a goal? Is that just because we aren't using our D, or is that just because our defensemen don't score goals?
That's usually the way it is. The defensemen who score goals typically are the ones who will bitch and complain to get the puck so they can score goals, a.k.a. me.
Or
Ah,
it's
that
the ones
explains
who
it.
don't get the puck, and as soon as they touch it, they just rip a shot from the blue line. Note here
Also-
that also in the goals for defensemen, GamingRendo was the only one who went over 4 shots with 7.
But another thing
Yeah.
would be, like, maybe for Rendo, he could have gotten shots and then a rebound could have led to a goal.
Well, we will
He doesn't-
see in the assists for defensemen.
The top, I guess, 4 defensemen for assists are me with 3. Oh, baby. Then there's X Factor 95 with 3, and he plays for Buffalo. I play for Toronto, in case you didn't know, but now you do. So now I'll never say that again. And NJ Tyrant had 2, and he plays on Winnipeg. And the Rolo, the RLO, in 402, is 2.
Now, who's got the top points in defense right now?
Point leaders.
It's a guy
I just want to know who's number 1 in point leaders for defense.
who won the last ever EHL Norris Trophy. And that would be me. Yeah.
There you go. The number 1 point leader, Mr. Big Head over here.
4 points, all-time leading EHL defenseman scorer, all-time leading GRHL defenseman scorer.
Just remember that in EHL you had like 250 shots. You were like number 10 in the top 10 for shooting.
So,
I just want to point that one out.
anyways, so I had 4 points. NJ Tyrant on Winnipeg had 3. X Factor on Buffalo had 3 points. Epic 17G on the Rangers had 2. And the Rolo in 402 had 2.
The Rolo.
The Rolo.
Oh.
See, we make up names in this show.
Thurlow. That's his name.
Sabre.
His name is Thurlow Jackson. That's what I start calling him. I'm like, hey, Thurlow. So, yeah, that would conclude the top 5 point-getting defensemen for the preseason.
Now let's see about those big, heavy-hitting, fat defensemen.
The big, fat-hitting, heavy defenseman is me, with 23, averaging 7.3333, repeating internally forever and always, games hits per game or whatever the hell. And I had 6 penalty minutes, which is surprisingly low considering how I typically play, which is boarding anyone that is in vulnerable positions. NJ Tyrant had 15 hits in 2 games, so he's actually averaging more hits per game than I am. But that won't last because I'm a superstar.
I digress.
Yeah. Asian Matt, is that his name?
Yeah.
Asian or
Matt.
Asian?
Asian. AZN Matt?
Is he
Asian?
really, is he Asian? Like for realsies? Or is he?
I don't know. I don't know.
Someone should do an interview and get a hold of him and find out if he's actually Asian. He had 7 hits in 2 games played, and he plays for Buffalo. Crisis, 232 on Minnesota, had 3 hits. Oh, Asian Matt had 15 penalty minutes, by the way, so it sounds like he either fights or gets game misconducts. So, yeah. Kerr's dad has 3 hits. He plays for Buffalo. And Lacard, 22, the big old permanent ECU, leading all ECUs. He's the ECU superstar. He is like the me of the ECU list. 3 hits in 1 game played with no penalty minutes. So Lacar's throwing the body.
It's pretty sad when an ECU can outdo players in the actual league, so I think people need to step up their hitting game.
All right, now I'd like to discuss a little bit the goalies with Miss Nellio. All right, well, I'd like you to touch on the shutout we have this week.
Okay.
I could say something so you can touch on.
And also on Creamsicle 2011.
You want me to
His
touch your
21 shots again. With his 21 shots against and 1 goal against.
That's a good save percentage.
95%.
I think it depends on the shots that were thrown at him. I mean, it's good. It was a good save percentage, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, if you get a lot of easy shots, if there's someone just throwing them at your pads every 5 seconds, or if you have, like, dinks that are coming up behind your D and trying to hide behind the net and wrap you, that's a problem.
I don't like when dinks swap me. It makes me feel icky.
A shutout of any kind is a great shutout. So congrats to Fluxay on the shutout.
Word. Now I want to touch upon the importance to all of our viewing parties, or listeners, if you will. Audience. Yes, audience. We are talking to you now.
Yeah, all 4 of you.
Woo!
3.5. One of you cut out early. We would like to discuss the importance of when you're playing the game, or you have friends you know who enjoy playing the game who have never played in the 6v6 league before, to always promote the league to them. We could always use some more players, get a couple more teams going, maybe for next season. ECU list is always available for anybody who signs up. They could be permanent ECU, they could be regular ECU, and just test out the league and see how they like it and if they do or don't. So always promote the league if you can, possibly. The more people we get, the bigger the league can get, and the more fun that is possible to have.
There's no delicate way for me to say this, so I'm just going to say it. Even if they're your friends, don't invite them if they're fucksticks. We don't want fucksticks in the league. We want people who are going to show up and behave and follow the rules and are just looking to have some fun. So if your friends are fucksticks, don't recommend the league to them, please.
And remember that everybody gets at least one chance, even if they are a fuckstick.
God
It's
damn
true.
it.
It's true. Everybody's welcome, as long as they follow the rules and regulations.
And for all of those who were into Black and Pwesticle's big hitters back in the day, make sure to upload your big hits onto EA and send us a PM to me or Sean. We will view all of your hits, and we will be posting in the video towards the end the best 5 hits that we have seen that were sent into us. So please record those, send them in, upload them to EA servers, give us the link. We will view them, post them, and we'll get your reaction on them.
Not
Is
only
it
hits.
limited?
Not
Is
only
it limited
hits.
to
Though.
just hits, or like goals and saves and whatnot?
Goals
as
and
well?
saves too.
Okay, so you're doing like the trifecta of highlights.
Yep.
Highlight reel. We're going to do a section called Highlight Reel. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys, to our new podcast for season 2. We'll be putting a new one out every weekend for your listening pleasures, and we would like to thank our sponsors, GamingRendo.com.
GamingRendo.com.
All right. So
Matthew, I can hear you tippity-tapping. You have NightBlade, welcome to
Nell,
GRHL
Microsoft.
Season 2 podcast. Tippity-tap, tippity-tap.
My shares at Amazon have gone up. Sell.